Hello, welcome Tom Tabor to the Larpar Show, where we talk about what is money, what is coming, and how to protect your family. So Tom is based in Colorado. He helps people there with plant medicine. He's going to share his story about how he's incorporated Bitcoin and plant medicine and his journey the last couple of years. So Tom, how did you find Bitcoin and how has it changed your life?
Well, it's been a pretty profound change in my life for sure. And the way I came across it was I'd been living in Thailand for a year. Actually, I'd left the US and lived and traveled to Southeast Asia. And when I came back, I visited some friends in Hollywood, and they had a little apartment there, a little balcony. And when I came to visit, they had a couple of gateway servers on their porch. And this is 2011 or so. And these were like Ivy League school guys that had never built anything. I said, you guys can't have your servers on the patio where the rain's going to come get it. So I helped them build a hash hut, which I had no idea what Bitcoin was. I had no idea what a hash hut was, but we just put something together with some plywood and some fans. And right then, I think it was around, it was either $4 or $11. It was something that was painful for me for a long time because I didn't buy any from them and I didn't know how to. And for about 10 years, I just suffered the price of Bitcoin continuing to go up without realizing I needed to still get in, that I was holding on to. I should have gotten then and not like, there's still a good time to get in. And it still is a good time to get into Bitcoin. And I believe it's a good time for the entirety of our lifetimes. It will always be good because it will store our value. It's about 10 years later, and I was dating a woman who had gotten into crypto and Bitcoin. And she said, Tom, you just have to let go of all that, look at it again, start studying and researching. And I did that and discovered, oh, wow, now I have this FOMO listening to Michael Saylor. I was like, oh, wow, I really want to get in. And so for about 9 months, I bought shitcoins and Bitcoin both and had to climb Mount Stupid with shitcoins and realized that that was a great way to lose money and a great way to get rug pulled. And uh, I think it was right around 2020, about the time that you said that you got into Bitcoin too, was when I really started to, okay, now I starting to understand it and actually started putting money towards it. And becoming a maxi was going to my first conference, which is Unconfiscatable in Vegas that Tone Vays puts on. And I knew it was a Bitcoin maxi conference, and I didn't want to go into that conference still holding any sort of Ethereum or anything like that. So I got rid of it all, and I went there, and that conference really galvanized it for me. Like just meeting so many Bitcoiners, and I've never turned back since then. It's just been something that's been profoundly changed my life, created a lot more abundance in my life to where I can do a lot more with my time that I don't have to do. I can just do those things I want to do, which is really nice. And
Amazing, amazing.
now I just look at ways that I can help the community back. So I attend a lot of conferences, look for connections and things that I can be helpful with. And last summer we put on a Bush Bash. It's this thing that they do in Australia, and I met BTC's Shilling Point, the Wizard of Oz on Twitter, and he really told me what it was all about. And we had an event on our property. And then this last month, actually last weekend it was, we had another Bitcoiner event where it's just people local to Colorado came out to the property for a camping event. We just discussed Bitcoin and had a good time with just a lot of fellowship, which is always my favorite part of conferences, is meeting people and getting to know their stories and getting to know new information. And so I had a lot of that just last weekend too. It's really a lot of fun. I've run a meetup, but it's kind of on pause right now. But I think meetups are phenomenal. If you can find a meetup in your area, go to it. If there's not one, you can always start one too. So that's what I discovered as well. So that's kind of been my path with it. I've been active on Twitter, and now I'm just getting to the point where I'm okay doing podcasts and possibly launching my own podcast in the near future too. So
Yeah, that's great. That's very good. Yeah, as I say, it's all about the education. Yeah,
mhm.
I firmly believe like once you understand Bitcoin and you get it, you need to we need to share the knowledge. Yeah, I don't need to be doing this podcast. Yeah, but I enjoy doing it, and I think I have to share the knowledge that what I've learned to other people in Ireland and
Mhm.
around the world as well. Yeah, if we can help one person, yeah, figure out what's really going on behind the scenes and how to protect their family from all this fiat Ponzi that's going on.
It's pretty devastating. The fiat money system, I believe, is the base layer for evil in our world, in our society. Not in our world, but in our society. That this fiat system where some people can print money for free and others have to work for it, that will always end in devastation and corruption. So, and I
Yeah.
think we both felt the effects of that.
Yeah. So what do you think? What was it about Bitcoin that really captured your attention 4 years ago and led you to dive deeply into studying about Bitcoin and coming back around again?
I think it's similar for a lot of folks that the number go up technology is the one that really catches people's attention, is this as an investment sort of idea. And that's what I was first interested in. But the farther you get on the rabbit hole, you realize that's the least interesting and least important part of Bitcoin, that it's actually changing changing the incentive structure of our society to where it's no longer short-term thinking, it's long-term thinking in how you live your whole life. And holding on to money that's sound money changes the way you make purchasing decisions, the way you allocate your capital, the way that you allocate your time, which is your personal capital. And that really was profound for me, that we can actually, in my lifetime, make a better society for all humans on Earth. That it's not just us in the West that have it pretty good, actually, compared to the vast majority of the population of the world. But if we can make it better for everyone and still not devastate the environment in the process of doing that, actually making the environment, our natural world, our built structure world better, then that's something worthy to be involved in and something that is important for all of us here. I could
And in
say
your
more.
experience, yeah, what do you think are the most common misconceptions that people have about Bitcoin? Yeah, because we had all
Yeah.
them ourselves as well.
Yeah, when I talk to people about it, there's some interest but curiosity about it, but then there's also, well, I've heard that, but it's really volatile, and I don't want to get into something that's so volatile. Not understanding the volatility is a seesaw up and to the right. So if you actually understand Bitcoin, you actually understand the curve that it goes on, and that it's not based on hope that the price will go up, but based on math and the halvings and the issuance schedule that's set in stone, then suddenly it's not a risky asset. It's not putting in some people will say you should only put as much in as you're willing to lose into Bitcoin, but the better state is only put in the money you can't afford to lose into Bitcoin, and that changes the whole game of it. And so if you want to be sure of something that you actually own, that is property that you control, that can't be confiscated through a third party, that has no third party risk, that doesn't have a company behind it, that doesn't have to make a product that keeps getting better and better like Apple. How long is Apple going to actually last? Is it still going to be here in 100 years? I'm not sure, but I'm really sure that Bitcoin's going to be here in 100 years and 200 years and well beyond that as well. So that aspect's really important to me. The unconfiscatability, I think that's a profound thing, that people can't just take your money because they don't agree with your ideas, your lifestyle, what you say in this world, that free speech actually matters, and that free speech is something profound, and something that very recently in England, we discovered that the government there isn't so fond of free speech, that if they don't like what you're saying, they can incarcerate you and have incarcerated people. And I find that disturbing at a deep level. And Bitcoin can protect all of us from that.
Yeah, yeah. There's huge advantages with Bitcoin regarding property rights. Yeah, and as you mentioned there, anything we have and anything we have can be taken away from us by force.
By
Yeah,
force or even by just nicks and cuts over many years, the just property taxes alone keep property from being able to pass down 3 generations. Once it gets to the third generation, the debasement of the fiat dollar and the taxation of properties, families lose their properties after 3 generations typically. But with Bitcoin and a Bitcoin standard, you can actually pass on your property, your like land, actual property, and your Bitcoin property multiple generations down the line. And I think that's a profound thing for our species and for our families and our groups of friends as well, that we can really protect each other and build a better society from that.
yeah. And you mentioned there, Tom, yeah, that Bitcoin is the best hope to save maybe humanity from globally or authoritarianism. Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you see Bitcoin playing this role on a practical level?
Yeah, practically. Well, practically in the US right now, we have the issue of what's called choke point 2.0, and it's part of the banking system. It's not a law. It's not even an executive order. It's just the government telling banks, hey, if somebody's playing with crypto or Bitcoin, you need to not let them transact through the banking system. And so they put a lot of controls on that. And I faced some of that myself, had to find some workarounds to that. And if they can mess with our money that badly, if the money we put in the bank isn't truly ours, but it's theirs to decide whether they want to give it back to us or not, that's a system that's not free, that's not liberty, that's not freedom, that's not the American ideas are based on. And I see Bitcoin coming closer to the American ideals than our Constitution does in our country. And we're very proud of our Constitution, but we've also seen it subverted through the actions of our government, that they continually take more and more freedoms away from us through things like in the States, we have something called the Patriot Act that happened after 9/11, which is basically the biggest surveillance legislation that the government's been granted power to surveil us. And the tool that they can most surveil us with, the one that they can put us into total human slavery is the central bank digital currency, the CBDCs. And there's several of them been tried around the world. That the states, the US hasn't done that yet. But if they do, then we're in a social credit score system. And then everything is judged by the government, and the government decides whether you can live or die based on how they can take your capital away from you. That it's now subject to purview, and it's subject to confiscation. And I think the only thing that stands between governments implementing CBDs globally is Bitcoin itself. Because if they implement that, then the only lifeboat is Bitcoin, and everybody will run to Bitcoin even faster. And that would be an event that would trigger hyper Bitcoinization, the mass adoption of it. So I think they're in a tight spot with their plans because Bitcoin's thrown a big wrench in their plans for that.
Well, recently as well, I've been hearing like in America, Trump saying that if he gets elected, he's not going to allow CBDCs. But on the flip side of that, he's talking about stable coins. Yeah.
He is.
Now, to me, okay, a stable coin is still programmable. So
Yep.
what's your take on that? You know, a lot of people are getting that don't fully understand the difference between a stable coin and a CBDC. It is not really, there is a
I think
difference, but there's not a huge amount of difference.
I think my thoughts on stable coins is developing. I don't know if I'm not sure how I feel about them fully yet. I do see them as a shitcoin because they're issued by a central authority and they can be subject to all the problems of central authorities. I can see that the something like Tether could be used as some proto CBDC possibly. So there's a lot of danger in that. But I see that the stablecoins are helping a lot of people all around the world and third world or underdeveloped countries because they don't have direct access to US dollars, like the physical dollars themselves, or any digital uh, version of that, like a banking account. I know I spent a lot of time in Peru, and in Peru, a lot of folks don't have bank accounts. And so something like a stablecoin gives them access to get out of their local fiat, which is worse than the US dollar, and hold something that's a little bit better. Would it be better to hold Bitcoin? It is, but I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen in all over the world for no matter what country you're in. So I think that's still developing, but I think in this next bull run, I think a lot more people are going to understand what Bitcoin is because the price is going to go up, and people say, "I thought that was already killed by the government. I thought that was already dead. I thought that was something that wasn't real." So I think that's the place where number go up really does help, not just in personal finances, but number go up equals adoption go up as well, and
Yeah.
that's a good thing in my book.
Yeah, well, it's all moving in the right direction anyway. Yeah.
Yeah,
All we
yeah,
need
I
is
think so.
time. Yeah. A lot of people want it to move quicker than what it is, but like, sure, if that's the case, we couldn't stack the sats
No,
that we have.
I was at the Bitcoin conference and I got to hear Michael Saylor's presentation with Bill Miller, and he was talking about volatility and how the volatility is such a good thing. If it was a straight line up, it would be miserable because there would not be those events where those that understood it could actually buy and lower. But even more so than that, it wipes out the players that are trying to game the system. It wipes out those that are putting longs and shorts to get Bitcoin. That in 10 minutes, we saw a spike that drove it all just on the announcement of there's an announcement last year, and in 10 minutes it spiked the price up and then dropped it to the basement, and it wiped out all the shorts and longs all at once. And there's no way that you could have been smart and planned around that. You just got messed up. So the only the only rational thing to do with Bitcoin is to buy it and hold it for as long as you can and spend it as you need. But the primary focus is on hodling.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Just you have to just make a plan, don't you? And 99% of traders lose over time. That's the data that's out
it's
there.
ex-
That's the
it's excruciating.
statistics. So people
Yeah.
need to understand when I'm talking to anybody about Bitcoin, I tell them like there's probably three types of people that get into Bitcoin. First of all, there's a trader, that trading mentality. And if you think you're a trader, just the data shows that 99% of traders lose over time. Then there's an investor, and that's somebody that has maybe a lump of money there and he's done his a little bit of homework on Bitcoin and he just puts it all in and just waits for 4 years, minimum 4 years. Or else there's a saver. Yeah.
Mhm.
A saver learns about Bitcoin and if they have a lump of money there and they put it in, once they've done their work and they keep on topping her up and dollar cost averaging. Yeah. Just topping her
It's
up.
the most profound, it's the most profound savings technology our species has ever had. In the history of our species, this is the most profound savings technology because you don't have to do anything except purchase it and stay in it and hold it, and then it will go up. If you hold it for 4 or 5 years, you'll have gotten all your money back plus quite a bit more out of that. And we've never had that opportunity. We were kind of taught growing up, well, you have to be in the stock market. That's the only way you can actually save money. And then you have to spend all your time knowing what that is, or you have to hand over your money to somebody else that supposedly knows what they're doing, and they may or may not give you your money back. So it's a lot of risk. It's a lot of just awfulness. People that I've known that have done trading both in stock markets, but particularly in the altcoin world, the shitcoin world, their lives they described were miserable. They would wake up in the morning and before they checked their computer, their heart was racing because they didn't know if they just made a bunch of money or lost all their money each and every single day. And the amount of stress that creates just doesn't make it worth it. It's just a nightmare. And I know a lot that got wrecked and eventually got into Bitcoin only. And they just said that my life's immensely better now as a result of that. And so I recommend that to folks to buy and hold for sure.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
there's that meme of that metronome that swings back and forth where I understand Bitcoin. I want to tell everybody and save everybody, or F them. I don't want to tell anybody anymore. So it kind of swings back and forth. And I even find myself in that case now. It's like when I talk to somebody, I'm like judging, okay, what's their level of receptivity? And I'm only going to go as far as they want to actually be curious about it. And before I would kind of fire hose people with it and it just sit there and blast them for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour even when they really weren't even listening anymore. So I've kind of matured out of that and realized, okay, just find out what their biggest concerns in life are and then see how Bitcoin addresses that concern. Because in the end, Bitcoin can touch everything in the same way that fiat touches everything. That in our world, fiat is at the base layer of so many of the things, all the activities we do in this world. So it's important.
Yeah. And then given your commitment to educating others, yeah, how do you see the current state of Bitcoin literacy? Yeah. And what steps do you think are necessary to improve it globally? Yeah.
I think the number of Bitcoiners in the world is a very small fraction of people. It's in the 1 to 2% of the world population, maybe.
Mhm.
And so that means there's a whole bunch of people that it's hard to find anybody that's never heard of Bitcoin at this point. Like they've heard that name, Bitcoin. You say Bitcoin is like, I've never heard of that at all. That's pretty rare these days. Even when I'm in Peru, I talk to people, they've heard of Bitcoin. They don't really know what it is. And it's grassroots is gonna be the best way. Just telling your friends and family, those people you come in contact with, being helpful to them, I think is good. Having companies that are doing educational work. I know a lot of folks at Swan, and Swan puts out a lot of content, although they've just gone through a reduction in their staff size. But that kind of mission where there's actually people out there educating is really important. El Salvador just announced they're going to train 80,000 government employees in Bitcoin. So that's pretty fun. That's a top-down sort of thing, but that's the kind of top-down that is unexpected, particularly from a nation state. And I think it will serve the Salvadoran people very, very well in the future as their population understands it better than any. I think in Nigeria, that's an example of a bottom up, where the Nigerians are just wonderfully like sharp around economics and monetary systems, and to tell them, oh, here's Bitcoin, here's what it does, you don't have to convince them. They're like, oh, that's what we've been waiting for this whole time. And so I think Nigeria has an overall higher adoption rate than almost any country from a grassroots perspective, because they get it. They get it so deeply because they've been abused so horribly by their local for fiat currencies and the actions of the government as well.
They
So
went
I
to a bit
think
of a rocky patch there as well, didn't they, at the beginning of the year, where they were the government was trying to push through the digital era, the CBDC.
yeah, yeah. I heard stories of lines going for hundreds of people just waiting to get to an ATM to only pull out $20, which is the maximum they allowed to pull out. And it was a wake-up call for all of them that, hey, it's not a good system. We need to have something better. And I think as people realized Bitcoin was the better system, that it really helped push that. And I think that's a good example of that was one of the test cases of CBDCs, and a way that they saw, oh, if we actually try to roll these out, we can't force people to take them. They may come up with clever ways, like UBI in the United States is this universal basic income, which is this notion that, hey, we're going to help everybody by printing a bunch of money and just dumping it on everybody. And people not having the financial literacy to realize the money they're dumping on you is going to be more and more worthless, and it's going to be just a slavery system. So, yeah, hopefully people understand. As I guess people only adopt Bitcoin when it actually solves one of their major issues in life. So whatever that is, that could be number go up, that could be confiscatability, it could be a limited supply cap of 21 million, so that you're actually holding the most valuable property that we can actually hold. It's a digital property, but it's actually a property that will ever increase in value throughout our lifetimes and through our ancestors' lives, or our generational, our children's and grandchildren's lifetimes as well. So
Yeah, yeah, you're totally correct there. What you're saying, yeah, people come to Bitcoin when they discover that they actually need it. Yeah, so you know, like in 1st of January 2022, nearly every single central bank in the world is going to have a fully functional CBDC ready. That's what the BIS said, the Bank of International Settlements, in
right,
2022. They wrote that white paper. So now it
yeah.
probably won't happen that quick, but I'd say a year, 18 months after that, we're going to start seeing them being rolled out.
And when you go into the history of the BIS and understand where they come from and who they are, and you understand their very, very dark history, it would be nice to take away all their power. That would be a really nice thing in our world, because they're not on the people. They're not on the side of the people, and Bitcoin is on the side of the people. It's the people's money. It's the money that you can voluntarily enter or exit anytime you wish, but it's always there to protect your capital, and it can't be messed with by anybody.
Yeah. Let's dive into a little bit about the Citadel. Yeah, can you share some insights into the Bitcoin Citadel in Colorado that you're part of? Yeah, and what is its purpose and how does it serve the Bitcoin community?
Well, we have a nice chunk of property up in the mountains, a beautiful, beautiful place, and myself and some friends all live here. And right now, we have a tractor out front. We're digging trenches to get some infrastructure in right now today. So we do some of that stuff. And the way that we've served is, well, the two events I mentioned, we had the Bush Bash last summer, and then this Bitcoin event just a week ago here. So that's one way that we're serving. And we also, I guess the work we do here, we do ceremonial work where we take groups of people down to Peru twice a year to work with healers down there, curanderos, with ayahuasca down in the jungle. So that's a pretty intense experience, and it's a big leap to take that one. So we have a monthly cacao ceremony that we have here with the sound healing. We have a 40-foot yurt that's our ceremonial house, this beautiful structure that's really lovely to be in. I just had some people walk into it last week and went, wow, this is really something else. It has, nicely decorated with a lot of items from Peru. And we had a nice sound bath just last Saturday. And people said, wow, that really, I just relaxed into it. And I kind of just drifted for about an hour, hour and a half, just into another space. And so that's part of what we're doing here. We're also part of a connected network of Citadels through the Bitcoin veterans. I'm not personally a veteran, but the Bitcoin veterans have graciously let me be part of their organization anyway. So they take on anyone that's willing to help along with their mission. And hopefully we're going to have that group out in October. So another way that we can serve is the members of those vets coming out here and spending some time in nature, camping out, having fellowship, talking about Bitcoin, but also talking about sovereignty type things. They do a lot of work with ham radios is one area, security, firearms, homesteading, homeschooling. So all those are, I think, essential parts of Citadels. And there's a whole network of Citadels around the country that, as we're connected and we have ham radios that we can actually communicate with each other outside of the traditional mechanisms. So if the internet goes down, something like that, we have another way of communicating with each other. And essentially, if we go into a really dystopian place in the next couple of years due to whatever they plan to pull on us, it's going to be us and our neighbors that are going to really help each other. So actually knowing your neighbors, knowing how you can support each other. We just got our first chickens a few days ago, so our chicken hutch is just getting completed. So having eggs is a food security, which is super important. Having water security, electric security, being able to take care of yourselves first. And once you can do that, then you can actually help take care of your neighbors as well. And I think that's essential, that because when it really comes down to this, nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to protect us. Nobody's coming to make sure we're okay. We have to actually make sure that we're okay ourselves, and doing as much as you can to prepare for whatever comes. And even if nothing bad ever happens, then you've just built a really cool lifestyle having a homestead. So why not?
Yeah, yeah. Amazing, amazing. And you touched on there a little bit there about ham radios. I seen something there from Bitcoin 2024, the conference. And they're transacting, you can transact Bitcoin now. And was that the veterans that were showing that? Where's it?
I think so. Yeah, they have some really top-notch educators in that area, and it's almost like orange pilling when you talk to them. They're like ham radio pilling. It's like, here's all the stuff. It's like, okay, that's too much. You have to slow down. Just let me know what I need to know first. And when I was growing up, one of my friend's dads was really into it, and he had antennas that were 50 feet above his house, like these big giant arrays to do ham radios. Now they have little $20 devices that, like USB devices, you can plug into a computer and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with them. So it's the technology's radically changed and it's a lot simpler. You still need to be licensed to use it, but the licensing's not, it's not hard. It's not like getting a license as a airline, a pilot for an airplane. So it's much simpler than that, but I think very worthwhile and something for people to look into. We haven't done it yet, also, to be honest. I've just known enough that I want to do it, and I'm hoping that some of the veterans will teach me how to do it too. So I'm not there yet.
Well, should they be coming out to stay with you soon, won't they? So I'm sure they'll be showing
Yeah,
you while they're
I'm
there.
really excited. I got to spend a lot of time with them when you're at the conference in Nashville too. And they had a Citadel and a meeting room down there, and it was really nice, all the education that was going on. I happened to be there when Max Kaiser came down to give a presentation there, so I got to shake his hand for the first time. And he just had some really nice words, encouraging words for the work that they were doing. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Amazing, amazing. And then how do you see, we will just touch base a little bit about plant medicine and Bitcoin, yeah? How do you see
Yeah,
the intersection of plant medicines and Bitcoin as a means to foster greater consciousness and provide hope for the future?
yeah, I think they both do. And I've been kind of in the plant medicine world for about 6 years now, Bitcoin for about four. And I'm, it's been profoundly changing for me, particularly ayahuasca. It's a tea brewed out of a vine and some leaves that grow in the jungle, and it gives you a sense of just deep connection to yourself, to your soul, to Mother Nature, and just it shows you the places in your life that you can do better and how to get over that and get to a better place so you can live a more full life instead of experiencing life as an idea. I actually experience life as a vibration, as your body actually feeling it. So actually being engaged with the people around you, but also the environment around you and being much more aware. So I think that's important. But my hope was that ayahuasca could help change humanity, that we could put us into a better place. But I just don't see that doing it on its own because it takes a lot to find it, to get to it, and all that stuff. But Bitcoin, I see as the practical tool to actually, the lever that can actually radically change our society. But once we've changed it, we're going to need that higher consciousness. We'll need to have that access to what are we actually? Like, what is the thing looking out of our eyeballs? What are we here in this universe? And I think when we get to Bitcoin brings us to a place of abundance, we'll have a lot of options about how we can create the world around us. And that's where I think ayahuasca will be of great service because the Bitcoiners are the leaders of the future. Um, Graham Hancock said that Graham Hancock's an author and a researcher on ancient civilizations. He's also participated in a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies. And he said every world leader should have 5 ayahuasca ceremonies. And I agree with him. I just agree with who he is talking about. I don't think our current world leaders are the ones that need it. It's the Bitcoiners that are the future of our whole world because they surely will be the ones with the reins on how this whole thing goes down. And that having that available to Bitcoiners is a big, profound shift for how we can create this new world. Because if we're just creating a world where everybody just sits around and watches Netflix and gets high or has sex or whatever, drinks or whatever your distraction from reality is, if that's what we're going to do and just kind of be Jabba the Hutts, then that's not really going to be a really beneficial world. That we actually need to be active in this world to actually create a better environment for everyone and help raise all ships. Why wouldn't we? What else are you going to do with your life? Are you going to just try to get rich and then drive fancy cars and be as cool as you can be? Let's not do that. Let's actually do something better than that. How can we actually make this world better so that when you're on your deathbed and it's your last day and you're looking back at your life, you go, wow, what a ride. I can't believe all that happened. And I feel really good about it. And I'm happy to die now because it was a life well lived. So that's what I think about. That's what I'm concerned about. I want that day to be a glorious day that I'm happy to go into and say, hey, this is the last day. Let's do this. What a great ride this has been. I didn't get everything done, of course, because there's always too many plans, but I got as much done as I could, and I'm really pleased with what happened. So, yeah.
And given your work with plant medicines and consciousness, yeah, how do you think these practices can help individuals, yeah, and communities better understand and engage with, say, the transformative potential of Bitcoin?
Well, there's an intersection of the plant medicines and Bitcoin there that when you dive into the plant medicines deeper, it turns out the spiritual path isn't this thing where you're just trying to feel better inside, like, oh, I think I feel the presence of God. It turns out it's actually about your behavior. And it's the actions you take in this world and the thoughts you have in your head. So it's being able to change this so that that chatter that's always going, that thing that's always telling you're doing it wrong or you're not good enough or you're some other low vibe thing that's going on, if we can get rid of that, then we actually can be more present and useful in this world. Bitcoin also changes people. You come for the number go up. You come because you want to make the money. But then as the longer you're into it, the deeper you go down the rabbit hole, you realize you've been changed in the process and you have to do acts of service as you're doing right now, as you're having this podcast and educating people, as you're running the Irish conference, you're spreading the word out to people and you're being of service to them fairly selflessly here too. And isn't that nice if we actually could motivate all humans on earth to be selflessly give to others and be incentivized to do so through Bitcoin, then what a phenomenal world we could actually have. I think the best vision I have of the future is Tomer Strolight has a video called Multi-Generational Wealth. It's about 12 minutes long. And it lays out the problem of fiat and it lays out what a Bitcoin future can look like. And it makes me cry every time I watch it because it's like, wow, I don't know if that world will exist before I die, but I sure want to be a part of trying to make that come true. And what can I do to do that? What's the next step? What's the next best thing I personally can do? I'm not a programmer. I'm probably not going to ever be a really good programmer. So I won't follow the cypherpunk manifesto to a T, but there's so many things we can use. Use our talents and what our heart speaks to us to say to do. Do those things that can make a difference in this world. And if we all do that, if we can all do that, what a different world we can live in.
Actually, to be honest, the way things are happening, the way things are changing now in the world as well, there's big changes coming. So people really need to start learning and protecting themselves from the changes that are coming. What can you see? We touched on a little bit there about CBDCs and stuff like that. Yeah. How are things changing in your country, in America? Yeah. We can see the changes in Ireland and the UK, what's been happening here the last couple of weeks.
I think, worldwide, definitely in the cities here. I don't live in the city anymore, so I'm about an hour from the city now. But we go into the cities, for things, for life. We have to go, and when we go there, it's devastating seeing all the homelessness in our country, and it's not just a little bit. It's way out of control, and these people. There's a lot of reasons as to why homelessness happens. I'm not an expert in it, but you can see the dysfunction through drugs, through mental illness, and just something like a medical bill can take a suburban family from a suburban comfortable lifestyle right to under a bridge just with one medical bill and then possibly getting involved in drugs when they get involved. So it's so close to the edge of that. That's not great. That's really horrible. And I think that's fully coming from this fiat world that we're in. That's when I say fiat is the base layer of evil, that's one of the ramifications of it. This short term robbing people of their time and their effort, it will end up there. And we can say, well, that's not me. Well, it could be two bad decisions, and we could be in a gutter ourselves. Two bad decisions. That's all it really takes. So there's no one to leave behind. Even the people that are homeless, those need to be raised up too. And I believe a Bitcoin standard can get us there simply from just not being stolen from. We're stolen from at every turn. Every time we make a transaction, some third party is taking fees out of it, sipping off every little bit of value each time that we transact. And then the debasement of the dollar, the debasement of all fiat currencies worldwide is just irreparable. It's just evil, just awful, awful, awful. And we've been raised in it, so it kind of seems normal to us. 2% or more inflation seems normal, and it's very far from. It's not the natural state of things. It's not the way the Austrians describe economics. It's the way the Keynesians describe economics, and it's a really we're seeing the end of an empire, I believe, is what we're witnessing right now. And I don't think it has anything to do with Bitcoin. It's coming down under its own weight. And in the past, when they brought down empires, they just launched a new fiat currency. But this time is different. They don't have the chance to do that because if they try to launch a new BS fiat currency, Bitcoin's there to step in and Bitcoin becomes the new standard. And it's an obvious choice. It's laid out so well by Jeff Booth in like 15 seconds. Do you want to hold fiat where everything for the rest of your life will continue to get more expensive? Or do you want to hold Bitcoin where everything for the rest of your life will continue to get less and less expensive? That's a pretty easy choice. And that's a profound choice. And somebody that's new to it may not get that, may sound like hyperbole or some sort of wishful thinking, but it's actually the facts on the ground mathematically, what's actually happening. And I think when people understand that and take that to heart, that's a big game changer. And I can't say anything better to help orange peel somebody than that statement right there alone.
It's very, very relevant, very, very relevant, and it's very, very true. We've seen it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can see it, but it's down to the education and the time that people put in to learn about Bitcoin. Yeah, and learn about what's going on with the fiat currency. We were talking before the show. I came to Bitcoin for like the second or third time around because I discovered in 2020 that the European Central Bank was about to print approximately 20% of all the currency that was ever uh, made in Europe. And I said, what? That's not possible. I thought it was a lie when I first heard about that until I started. I said, well, maybe there is some truth in this. So I started digging and digging and digging,
Yeah.
and I ain't going back.
Yeah. No, no, once you go far enough down the rabbit hole, there's no returning, and you just try to help others along the way as you can and protect you and your family as best you can as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Another place I see it too is a really dramatic representation of this fiat world is Lima, Peru, which haven't spent a lot of time, but I've flown in and out of a number of times. And Lima, for a good chunk of it, is just a sprawling slum. It's pretty dang poor, and it looks like a lot of third world countries I've been to. But then on the coast, right on the coast, is this place called Miraflores, a really ritzy, looks like Southern California, like literally, with the Prada stores and all the walking pedestrian malls and everything. And the difference between the wealth of that and what sprawls around them is is kind of gross. It's kind of awful. It's actually I told a friend there that you could actually see the energy being pulled out of the bigger part of the city and then just dumped into that one small pinpoint of a place where it's wealthy and abundant. And what Bitcoin says is, hey, we can raise everybody up. These guys that are still here, they may still be the wealthiest, but everybody can raise up and everybody can have more abundance in life. Everybody can spend more time with their families and friends and do things that speak out of the passion of their heart. And if we can do that, man, that's a game changer for this world. That's really something else.
But it takes work, and people need to do the work and put in the
And,
time to learn about it because it's not going to come overnight. Yeah.
and I think that only comes, I think change only comes when there's a leverage point to change, even within ourselves for personal development as well. It's like using plant medicines. We're never going to change until it gets so bad that we can't stand it anymore and we have to do something else. We're forced, our hand is finally forced. And some people have a higher tolerance for pain, so they can go farther and farther down. But at some point, you go, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And when that point comes, that's when it's no longer education out of curiosity, it's education out of necessity. And it'd be nice to have people learning beforehand, so when the point of necessity comes, they have better understanding and of what that is. And I think the price of Bitcoin, that actually scares a lot of people away, is, oh, it's 60,000 today or around 60,000. And there's a thought, well, I have to buy a whole one, and there's no way I'm ever going to accumulate enough capital to have 60,000 at one point to buy one Bitcoin. And people don't realize you could just buy $1 worth or whatever amount you can afford, and you're locking in that capital into a network that's securing it with the greatest, most powerful network in the world that can't be overthrown by any government. Even a collection of governments can't overthrow Bitcoin at this point. So, and there's some people that may disagree with that statement, but I believe that is true. And after this next cycle of number go up, I think it may be hard for anybody to purchase, just a normal citizen to purchase a whole Bitcoin, but it will also become, because of the hash rate going up along with the price, it will be even more impossible for any government to try to do a 51% attack. So, which I don't think will ever happen anyway. That it'll be through other means, things that aren't directly attacking Bitcoin, but it's the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, doubt that they throw around Bitcoin is really the attack vectors, attack surfaces of Bitcoin. But even those are falling by the wayside. People like Daniel Batten are just smacking down this whole thing that Bitcoin's bad for the environment, and it's just beautiful the way he does it. So, and proving that Bitcoin is actually good both for humans and for the environment. So, and the flourishing of humans, which is what I'd like to see.
Something that I was saying last year, once this ETF gets launched, yeah, because I was following it quite closely last year, and I said once the ETF gets launched and these asset management firms are in stacking Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to be good for the weather, your granny, your pets. It's going to be good for
Yeah.
everybody because the whole narrative is going to change. And we can see that now ourselves, on the different channels that we watched. Even CNN is talking about Bitcoin. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty amazing. I think the financial world doesn't understand that ETF isn't Bitcoin. It's an IOU for Bitcoins, and that there's a lot of third-party counterparty risk danger inside of that. And who knows what games they're playing? Because when we're watching Coinbase and all this money, nine-tenths of them being stored in Coinbase, I'm not saying they're playing games, but there's a lot of people that are suspicious that the OTC desk is somehow fudging the numbers or just buying once a day or something like that. So maybe that'll all come out, but there's definitely some dangers. The thing I like about Bitcoin is it it rewards honest players, and if you're a dishonest player, eventually you'll get caught with your pants down and get spanked. And I think that may happen to some of the biggest companies in the world, like BlackRock. They've never played in a fair system. They've always played a gamed system and knew how to play it very well with a large amount of capital. I don't expect them to change overnight with the games they've played in the past, but they may get burned as well in all this, and they may have to learn a hard lesson also. So, and if they do and they survive it, then perhaps they'll become a really honest player that helps protect capital for everyone on Earth. So,
They say, we can't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes us.
absolutely. And I think that's true at the individual, the group, and the large nation state as well. And we see that unfolding in El Salvador pretty beautifully. I spent some time in Costa Rica. I was down there for the Freedom Festival, and it was really nice what they've done with their local communities. So many vendors are actually using Bitcoin, and they have a great way to kind of go between their fiat and Bitcoin very simply. And just walked into a coffee shop that I had no idea if they took Bitcoin or not. Just asked, "Hey, do you guys take Bitcoin?" I said, "Oh yeah, sure, just run it here." It's like, wow, this is like living in the future. It was so wonderful spending those sats because it was like, ah, wow, a breath of fresh air. What would a future like this actually be like? And it was the taste of it. And I was so just joyous about that. It was really phenomenal to behold and be a part of, actually.
Amazing, amazing. So, Tom, yeah, to wrap it up there, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Uh, if somebody wants to get in touch with you or they want to find out more about the Citadel that you're doing, the work that you're doing down there in Colorado, how would they go about getting in touch with you? Yeah, and maybe
I'll
even
put this
booking
away.
one of the ceremonies with yourselves as well, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, we have, well, you can reach out to me through Twitter because I'm pretty active there, and I'm Tom Tabor Hodl, TomTaberHodl. You can reach me there. You can also go to our website, which is montañasagrada.com. And then also we have a podcast that we talk about plant medicines, some about Bitcoin, some about the state of the world and some of the topics we've been talking about. And that's called Wide Awake in Babylon. And you can find it on Spotify or any place that you have podcasts. And we have 58 episodes about all that. So that's a great way to learn more about what that all is. So I'm on Nostr as well, Tom Tabor at Nostr Clubs. And I'm not as active there, but I intend to be soon, more active there. Yeah, reach out when you can. That'd be great. We
Well,
also
we'll
have, as part of a panel on plant medicines at the Bitcoin conference, it hasn't been released yet, but my friends Source Node, Shane Hazel, and Eric V. Stacks and I were all on the panel together, and we had 30 minutes to talk about it. So I'm pretty excited about when that comes out because I think that's going to start a bigger conversation in the Bitcoin community about plant medicines. And whenever I talk to Bitcoiners about it, there's always been a lot of interest. So part of it also is I think a lot of Bitcoiners are already involved in plant medicines but aren't vocal about it. But I think a lot are interested in it as well. And that comes from the plants, but also through mushrooms, psilocybin as well. So, yeah.
do you celebrate Plant Medicine Day over there? Like it's
No,
something
I
about
don't
me
think
that
there
a
is
lot
a
of
plant
people don't
medicine
know
day.
about me, you know?
We don't need a plant medicine day. We have enough days. Just live your life. Don't make a big ceremony out of it.
Oh, yeah. I know in 2019, two people approached me and they had this idea about having a plant medicine day in February.
Yeah.
And we actually put it together. We did,
Oh,
and
really?
it's been going for the last couple of years. Yeah, it's called your
Oh,
Thank You Plant Medicine Day, the 20th of
Oh,
February
oh,
every
I
year.
actually I do like that one. Yeah, and actually in my profile picture, you'll see I have the banner still from Thank You Plant Medicines because I really like that movement, and they did have a day for that. But it was just a nice way for people to say, "Hey, this actually had a profound effect on my life, and I want to just recognize what it's done." So I do believe in that, but the day doesn't matter as much as just putting out the message. So yeah,
Mm. Share the love. Yeah, that's what it's
yeah,
all about, isn't it? And share the love, share the knowledge, and try and help other people out there. That's what we can do. Yeah.
yep.
Okay, Tom, thanks for your time. Yeah, and
Lawrence,
we will
thank you so
definitely
much.
catch up again.
Yes, if I
And
come to Ireland, I'm coming to visit you, so I would like to do that sometime.
oh yeah, the offer's always open. Yeah, and if you want to come to Ireland for the event in May, it's on the 25th of May. And
Oh,
I'll get all the links that you mentioned there earlier on, and we'll link them in the description below. And
thank
any
you.
viewers that enjoyed the podcast, give us a like and share the video and subscribe, as they say.
All right, Lawrence, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.